Technically, AI cannot match us as human beings. The way our brains are wired, the way we have intuition, foresight, aesthetic, an understanding of culture, all of that, AI lacks. However, it can fake it. And with every passing day, it's getting better and better at faking it. So in the right hands, in the right expert hands, it is going to be used to drive novel products and services and creative outcomes that we never thought we could attribute to a piece of technology.
Hi, I'm Greg Stewart, CEO of MMA Global, the international nonprofit trade association for CMOs who are focused on architecting a new future of marketing.
I'm Rex Briggs, an author, market researcher, measurement inventor, and entrepreneur. We've got someone who is phenomenal on the show today. We were just trying to remember when we first met, whether it was 15 years ago at Pepsi or before at Razorfish. Known him for a long time. Phenomenal. He has a new book out, which is part of the Dummies book series.
Yep, love
that. If you feel like you want to start and don't want take anything for granted, it's a great way to dive in. And he is the author of Marketing with AI. And so I'll give you the pleasure of introducing. Let me introduce him. Shiv Singh, he's co-founder of AI Trailblazers. And in addition to being an author, he's also been helping CMOs in his consulting practice, and he is been a CMO himself. He was CMO at LendingTree and spent time at Expedia and Visa and Pepsi and Razorfish. Great track record. Yeah. Please welcome Shiv Singh.
Thank you for having me on, Rex and Greg. Great to be here.
Yeah, Shiv, I was really excited when I ran into you and said, hey, listen, you got to be like the first guy we should do. I think it was out at CES, right? We ran into each other at CES. I should come do this. Okay. Here's a funny question for you, though, Shiv, right? How do you write a Dummies book? Like, what's the process? Just tell me a little bit the process. I'm kind of curious. We see them all the time. We've all got 10 in our shelves, I'm sure, for different topics. But how do you actually go through the process of doing that? I'm just curious. Then we'll get into AI.
Sure, I've got to admit it's a lot harder and a lot more painful than it may appear on the surface. So firstly, I should mention this is my second Dummies book. Back in 2008, I wrote Social Media Marketing for Dummies, which did extraordinarily well. 4 editions, 7 language translations. You can still buy that one on Amazon. The way you write this book is a lot is up to the author. However, in terms of the structure, it's a very strict template. And, the Dummy series is owned by Wiley. So the publisher is Wiley, and I was working with a managing editor, a technical editor, a copywriter, a project editor, basically a whole team at Wiley to shepherd this along with me. So that's strategically how it works. Operationally, you go through all kinds of toll gates from you create an outline and you need to get it approved. You have a sample chapter. Only if that's approved, you get to write the book. So I went through all those stages, but probably the most interesting piece to mention is I chose with this one to do a lot of primary and secondary research myself. And what that meant was I interviewed approximately 100 marketers, half of which were brand side, but a bunch on the ad tech and the martech and the agency side, as well as some AI startup founders to really bring together what would be a thoughtful, strategic perspective. So a Dummies book means that it's taking a very complex topic and making it easily understandable. Half the book is about AI, and the other half is how to bring it into marketing. And that's what it is and how I approached it.
And what are some of the key nuggets that come out of that you want the listeners to know about to make AI for marketing more tangible this year?
Yeah, so there are quite a few, Rex. And first and foremost, and this draws on my experience building my career in marketing as well, every marketer should know that there's no sub-function in marketing, whether it's strategic planning, insights, creative, media planning, analytics, shopper marketing, you name it, that should not be affected by AI in a significant way in 2025. A great example is I was talking to one of the CMOs from a top 5 bank in the country. I won't mention which one. And we were having this long conversation about AI while I was researching the book. And she just kept on saying, oh my gosh, SEO. We are already seeing such dramatic impact via SEO. I spoke to another one, and it was all about, we can do insights on the cheap with synthetic panels. I spoke to a third marketer, and it was, I hate to admit it, but I'm bringing more creative work in-house and forcing AI to be a creative partner for my internal agency. So every function is being impacted. And in the book, I unpack for each of these different sub-functions, what does it mean, what you can do today, what kind of vendors or partners you should work with, and where you should go next.
So, Shiv, if it's going to revolutionize marketing, which is basically the thesis of kind of that's the essence of what you just said. So, where are marketers when it comes to getting in the AI? I mean, what's your take if I have talked to everybody? And when would you have done the conversation? Like 12 months, 6 months ago, 12 months ago? How long ago would you finish your interviews, so we know the state of?
Yeah, so the last set I finished in October.
Okay,
but
recent.
Yeah, but I would say since then too, I've been talking to marketers a lot. Obviously
but
that didn't make it into the book.
The book is at this point 3-4 months old, barely. I mean,
yeah,
got it. Okay. So what's the state of marketers then? What do you think of state of marketers adopting AI if it's going to revolutionize everything?
Look, I don't mean to depress everyone so early in the conversation, but I do think the world of...
It's okay. You can do that. Our readers are hardy and they will take it. It's okay.
Great. So, look, I think, we like to compare this to Web 2.0 or to the mobile phone or even to the internet. I don't think we have any idea what's about to hit us. I think this is a tectonic shift. It's a general purpose technology on a scale that certainly none of us have seen in our lifetimes. And when it comes to the marketing function, just think about it. All of a sudden, we have dozens, so at LendingTree, I ran a marketing team of 150 people, budget 650 million. I thought I was cat's whiskers, big budget, having a lot of fun with it, a lot of performance marketing too. All of a sudden, if I were enrolled, I'd wake up and realize that instead of 150 people, I could have 1,000 people or even 10,000 people working for me. The point is that they would be AI agents, digital labor. And when you get into a situation like that, where you have, the AI as your partner for every role, it very quickly leads to two questions. The glass half full question or thought is, well, it frees me up to do a lot more interesting work. No one wants to admit the truth, but in marketing, after a certain point, there isn't that much more interesting work to do. So this is where it starts to get frightening, which is it is going to lead to job displacement and job loss. There will be a lot more automation. What we've all witnessed in the 80s happen in manufacturing and in blue-collar roles is going to start to invade the corporate world, and marketing will be one of the first functions, and it already is among the first functions to be affected the most. So that's one piece to the change. The second piece to the change is that it's also going to lead, on the flip side, I do believe, to, ironically, a marketing renaissance, where it's going to give each and every one of us superpowers to do so much more. It's already doing that. So we're going to be able to, have much more personalized communications with our customers. We're going to be able to do audience segmentation much better. Instead of every time I need to understand how a Google search campaign performs, rather than me sort of charming my data scientist team and say, hey, move this request up the priority or answer this for me right now, I'll be able to go in, and I can go in and ask those questions myself of the interface and get responses. So it's a weird contradiction. It's going to lead to job loss. It's starting to do that. It's making us all uncomfortable, and I see that every day and in every conversation. But on the flip side, it's giving us incredible powers to do so much more ourselves.
Okay, so we're going to crash, and then, I guess the phoenix, we're going to rise up from the ashes eventually. How long is that cycle? What am I up against here? Maybe I should know.
Well,
I think that's an unanswerable question, by the way.
I mean, I do believe, though, Greg, in all seriousness, and I said this a year ago, and I still hold to it, that within 4 years, the marketing function, so I'm not talking agency or ad tech, martech side, I'm talking within brands, marketing functions are going to be 25% smaller than they were a year ago. And I have no reason to revise that prediction.
Yeah. Listen, your partner there, Amit, told me, I had lunch with him the other day, and he was telling me that within his company, they believe that their coding productivity has gone up 70% in just 1 year, directly as a result of AI.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing, the kind of changes.
So Shiv, you make some other predictions as Greg's asking you to do. You have a Substack, and you had some of the predictions that you have for where this is all going. Things like AI reasoning will invade decision making. Maybe that's part of what you're talking about here. You talked about the era of a new do-it-yourself marketing is here. That you talked about open source AI will lead to a new super skills. Unpack some of these for us, particularly maybe the super skill. Like tell me about how it gives you the super skills, what that could enable you to do, what listeners can do to acquire these super skills sooner rather than later. Yeah, talk to us about your predictions for 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had this epiphany when I was playing around in Mid-Journey, and this was a couple of months ago. And I was just fooling around, writing a text prompt, seeing what image would come back. And then I suddenly decided, why don't I try to ask it something a bit more serious? And I asked Mid-Journey to create a Where's Waldo illustration. So I'm sure you know Where's Waldo, that incredible illustration sort of system, and several books and even a TV series about it. And what I couldn't believe is, in a matter of seconds, Mid-Journey created a Where's Waldo illustration for me. And I said, create one of Where's Waldo at the beach and make it difficult for me to find Waldo in it. And it did an incredible job of that. And then that led me to losing, 5 hours of my life I'll never get back, because I was creating dozens and dozens of Where's Waldos. But the point is, Rex, I don't have any illustration skills. I mean, I have a design aesthetic.
Nor any respect for copyrights, apparently, either. But go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a writer by training. I think in words. And yes, copyrights definitely not in this instance. But the fact that it enabled me to create and be, a skilled illustrator just without having any skills. Granted, I was stealing, that's another
no, but
story.
mind-blowing, right? I mean, that you could steer this thing, right?
That's mind-blowing. And all of a sudden, I realized I did not need an illustrator to do certain activities for me. And the same applies with video. Granted, something like Sora is very rudimentary and early on, but if you look at VO or some of the other tools, we are all turning into Steven Spielbergs, and we're all able to do a lot more. Now, whether it's in 2 months or 6 months or a year, that's the only relatively unknown question. But we are truly entering a DIY era where smaller companies with much smaller marketing teams will be able to do so much more. And that's also incredibly exciting. And the very large companies with large marketing teams that can cozy up to the Googles and the OpenAIs of the world, they'll also get outsized benefits because they're going to get early access and work with those engineers really directly. The tragedy is the folks in the middle, between the Fortune 1000 and the Fortune 2000 companies, they ironically are going to struggle the most in this new era. And it's both because of what will happen in their marketing functions, but also in other functions as well. They won't be small enough to take advantage of that DIY mindset, and they won't be large enough to cozy up to, the tech oligarchs.
It's interesting you say that, Shiv. I was at a creator event at Sundance just a couple of weeks ago, and somebody made a funny question. She said, in the old days, you had to go through layers of a studio or some dynamic of that, an agent and everything else. She goes, the only thing that stands between me and sort of getting a message or getting content out to somebody is the upload button.
So true.
And
so
I think that's in
true.
essence what you're saying is that we're giving that, we're giving all of that control. It's just a massive extension of sort of the creator concept, it seems, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've all watched with awe and enthusiasm the development of the whole creator economy. Now it's nearly as if the creator economy is going to come into corporate America and into the marketing function,
Yeah,
where
that's right.
we ourselves turn into creators.
But that's
And
actually
yeah.
that's why I have a little bit of a different take on where it will end up with employment. And this is a big, hotly debated issue, and I think college graduates are having the hardest time ever of trying to find jobs now because
Yeah, tech
companies
people
are
are,
just saying, "Hey,
right.
wait a minute, let's hold off and see what we need." But if you think about what happened with the creator economy, there was an explosion of the amount of content, and there was an increase in the number of people and jobs that were created by that unleashing of the tools and capabilities to give more people the power. So I have a theory that maybe we could see, if companies play this right, an explosion of productivity and an increase in the size, not a shrinking in the size of people. And one of my experiments this weekend was I took something that was built at Marketing Evolution, a company I founded a long time ago,
Yeah.
and it was basically like 10,000 data points that needed to be graphically shown in a chart and a table linked to it and searchable and stuff like that. And I rebuilt that with Claritas's data, which is about the same size, and I did it in 3/4 of a day, when before it took a week and a half and it took a couple engineers doing it for me. And it was super interesting because I'm like, wow. If we unleash the capability of people to do this far faster, you could lay people off, or you could redeploy small teams to create more functionality and value faster.
So
Is
Rex,
that
you're saying
possible, or am I just being an
marketing
optimist?
marketing productivity increases, or its value increases to the corporation. So why wouldn't we invest further into that,
Yes,
even if it means more personnel?
exactly. I mean, the question becomes, what's the bottleneck? Like, if you already have 100% market share and you can't think of any new ideas, I mean, I think what's going to happen is that the companies that take my mindset will take market share and squeeze out the people that decide to lay people off instead and take the savings to the bottom line.
So, Rex, I really want to believe you that that's going to happen.
Boy, that was said with hesitancy.
Yeah, well, I think there is a hesitancy.
Go ahead.
So
Go ahead,
on
Jim.
me.
What-
What's the counter argument?
So,
What has
so
to be
th- so-
true for us to get to the abundance theory versus the scarcity theory?
Yeah, so the counter argument is that within a lot of marketing departments today, you have a lot of specialists. So, that I talked about, like at LendingTree, that 150 person team, 25 of them were running the paid campaigns, the performance marketing paid campaigns, and we were doing it all in-house. And huge budget, all in-house, took 25 people. The tools, whether it's from Google or Meta or Amazon or whoever else, are going to get a lot more sophisticated, that it will not take 25 people. It'll take 10 people, 8 people, maybe even 6 people. When it does that, you all of a sudden have 12 people lying around who are brilliant as SEM marketers, display marketers, etc., hands on keyboards type of people, who then need to be retrained to do something else. Because that job task is just going away. It's not like there's more SEM marketing to do, because the budget is not getting larger like that. And then it leads to a question is, do you retrain them, or are those dollars better spent elsewhere? What is happening right now, at least in the Bay Area where it's starting out, and that's why I get so scared, is what a lot of companies are saying, and it starts with these tech giants, is they're saying, oh my gosh, we need to invest in data centers. We need to hire all these AI PhDs who are the creme de la creme of the AI world. They're frightfully expensive. We need to find dollars in the rest of our business to fund the data centers and this talent. And let's go look at HR. Let's go look at marketing.
You're totally
Let's go
right.
look at all these other functions. And that's where the budgets are being pulled from. And as a result, we've had this weird irony in the last 24 months where you haven't had higher profits. Look at Meta, look at Google as great examples. And you've had layoffs at the same time.
Yes, higher
Meta
profits,
has
layoffs, and growth all together at the same
and
time.
growth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's such an unusual and difficult time in that regard. And if I
But
could
it
just
is a
share,
corporate choice, though. I mean, and you're totally right. So Meta did it first, Google followed, Microsoft followed, right? And
Everybody
Yeah.
followed,
Zuckerberg
right?
said we're going to lay, 10% off, and we're going to still grow 10%.
It was the year of
as you
efficiency,
said,
he said, right?
yeah,
yeah, and he's
as
done
you
it
said,
again this year,
and he
by the
did
way.
it
He
again.
just announced
Exactly,
it.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's on the back of Microsoft just announcing their layoffs and then their stack ranking, pushing people out. But I think that what's interesting is that, as you point out, they made the decision that their bottleneck is they needed more data centers and more data scientists. So I think that each company will go through and say, what is our, where do we want to invest? And the interesting point is, okay, fine, maybe not all of that gets invested back into marketing as you make it more productive. And the question is, what else can you do to create value? So I guess I just challenge the listeners to really think about that. This is what Shiv's talking about is a choice, and the easy choice is to lay people off, and that probably is going to be the dominant signal. I think that's right. But it is a choice, and if you can find out another way that you can grow and redeploy those resources, figure that out, because that will help your company grow and be more valuable faster.
Absolutely. I couldn't
Chip,
agree with
And Shiv, you
more
said
with
it
that.
like, even on your SEO example, like, okay, so SEO, SEM maybe goes sort of gets declined or sort of changed. But, listen, somebody's got to manage what's coming out of all these chatbots. How my company's showing up there. I mean, I have to, I don't know how much work that's going to be, but, I have to assume there's new opportunities that arise as a result of that, right?
Yeah, it definitely requires new skills, new opportunities. The question is, will it be as many people? And I want to just share two sort of quick examples. So first from marketing and then outside the world of marketing. So it pains me to say this, but I feel I have to, given what I do for a living now. But I'm sure you saw that Coca-Cola holiday campaign.
Yep.
That holiday Christmas holiday.
Ad, yep.
Yeah, that ad. Now, I'm a former PepsiCo marketer, so I don't like talking about them, at least not in positive terms. But it was super impressive in my view. And the time and effort and cost, and they even said this publicly, to create that ad was, a tenth of what their normal Christmas campaign would cost. And I know that because I know how much it costs at Pepsi, and we'd compete with each other. But and there was a lot of controversy about it, as you said, and a lot of people were upset, and they said it's not real, it's not human, it's inauthentic, it lacks emotion, it's not a real ad, and people were angry. The bizarre piece in that is two things. One is System One, and I'm sure you're familiar with System One. They do ad testing and are extremely credible. They saw that ad perform very well. So take our human emotion out of it, and our irritation and our anger and our insecurities. From a performance standpoint, that piece of creative did very well. The second takeaway from it also is, if it took the 10th of the time and the 10th of the effort and the 10th of the resources, and we also know different types of skills, what about those unfortunate folks on the agency side that were used to going out on a shoot and were planning for months for this wonderful polar bear ad? That's the hard, painful thing. That the change is real and it's coming. That's one big example. The second example I just want to very quickly touch on is, because you can't talk this week or have a conversation without mentioning DeepSeek. One of the greatest ironies with DeepSeek that I don't think is getting enough attention in the press is, compared to how OpenAI has trained its LLMs and all the others, it uses reinforcement learning, but without human in the loop versus human in the loop. The human in the loop piece is much, much smaller in DeepSeek. And I mean, we could go off on a tangent there, but I'm mentioning that, Greg, just to your point about, yes, we still need humans, but frighteningly, even that's starting to change in some respects. And we just don't know.
Hey, Shiv, for the listener, can you explain the human in the loop concept there, just so they all understand that? I don't know if everybody would.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to, LLMs, these large language models are built on taking a massive corpus of data, often public internet data, and now from Reddit and a few other places, and training it to read and analyze it so that it can figure out its probability when it's, choosing what word or what token to put in front of the previous one. Part of that also then is once that's done, once it's trained, you have human beings that do a lot of testing on it. Literally hands on keyboard, asking the LLM a whole bunch of questions and giving thumbs up, thumbs down to the responses. It's sort of very manual at the same time. So that's what it means to be human in the loop. And it's a strong concept. It works well. We take it into other areas when it comes to AI. And an overriding thought has been that when it comes to AI, you must have humans in the loop, not just in the training, but in the use of it. When it came to DeepSeek, they used reinforcement learning. So the AI would run against the data, learn everything, but it would use another AI to evaluate it and to determine whether the answers were good or bad, and then incentivize it or reward it if they were good answers. So instead of using humans in the loop, it was using AI in the loop to improve the AI.
Which
Love
is
it.
both more cost efficient and gives us a glimpse that how much are we really needed if it can begin to become
I thought the
better
I
on
thought the
its
funniest thing
own.
about this whole thing though was the fact that OpenAI was like pissed off, or allegedly sort of pissed off that DeepSeek had like stolen allegedly some of their data or something. I'm like,
Hey, they said, "Hey, how did you get that New York Times article?"
a
That came
little
from
bit-
us, didn't it?
a little bit of irony in that whole situation.
Totally the kettle calling the pot black.
I don't think that comms wasn't paying attention when they put that message out.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is in the last couple of days, they've buried that concern. It's not being
did
talked
they?
about
Yeah,
as much.
I haven't.
At least I'm not seeing it.
was gone.
Yeah.
So, Shiv, who do you think is doing it well out there? What marketers do you kind of call out? You think? I mean, listen. So you mentioned Coca-Cola taking a risk and really validating something and actually creating a sort of a positively effective ad. So good for them. I love that. But who else do you think is really doing the right thing from all your experience?
Yeah, so Greg, this is a hard one because I believe this is a revolution that will not be televised, because so much is in the bowels of a marketing function of a business, and it's around process changes, it's around doing better segmentation, getting better insights. It's really only the creative end that is more visible and that we see. Having said that, I think there are few companies that are making good progress. So one, of course, and I put companies that are doing it not just in marketing, but across every function on a bigger pedestal, because you're going to be in sync with your other functions as well. So it is mind-blowing what Klarna out of Europe, out of Scandinavia, is doing. And one of the first big steps that CEO took was he pulled the plug on using Salesforce everywhere and said, we don't need to pay for these expensive licenses. We can do more ourselves with AI agents. And that was the first step. And now with his team, and this has been like a 1-year journey with them, and they were just written up again in the New York Times. They're also like within the marketing function, looking at ways to, quite bluntly, cut out the human being. I could have phrased that better. I'm afraid. I apologize. Take the human being out of the equation and use AI more and more. So Klarna's one. Coke is making a lot of progress on the creative front. Michael, a friend of mine who's the CMO at US Bank, used AI really strategically to bring together the sharpest insights as they were launching their new brand positioning and campaign. Another friend,
I think he's the episode after you, Shiv. We've not recorded with him yet, but we got that on a list.
Oh, wonderful. So I won't spend time on that then. But another is, Melanie over at Newell Brands, who with her team, they're using AI to also do product innovation and design innovation as well. And it's, it happens deep in the software stack as well. And what I mean by that is when you use the Adobe stack and a few other tools to aid you every step of the way. Does it look sexy and glamorous? Is it easy to see an ROI for us on the outside? No, but is it saving them huge amounts of time? Yes, absolutely. Another's HP. They have to, literally produce millions versions of product photography for each of their markets, get it out to them. It would take months at a time. Now with Firefly bulk images, it's taken them hours and maybe a few days instead of months. So depending on the company, you're seeing all kinds of innovations, and I'd say these are some of the ones that stand out.
What are the things that you see when you see a company going too slow or using AI in ways that you think are not efficient, that you maybe help save some people some time for going down a wrong path? What would be some things that are sort of the hallmarks of a wrong path?
And this is where it reminds me of when I was at PepsiCo. And at PepsiCo, I was responsible for digital in the beverages business. I ran a small team. When I joined, we were spending 2 or 3% in digital. And when I left, it was, 14, 15% of the total ad spend. And trust me, I took a lot of flack for that. I don't think I can walk straight anymore because of all the...
Shiv, what year was that, by the way?
09, 08, 09, 010.
Wow. And Pepsi objected to 14% in digital in 09. Rex, you want to, as the founder of multi-touch attribution, the guy who's done more research,
there still wasn't enough. You were pushing them in the right direction.
They were less. They were less than half of where they should have been by that point. By the way, just FYI. Yeah, and Rex and I have done all the research on that. We're pretty confident.
But it points to the point that I think you're getting to, which is that people move too slow when these things happen, right?
Well, I think people move too slow, but my other point is that I feel I can't walk straight anymore because I was being stabbed in the back so much because I was taking people's budgets and moving it into an area that they did not understand and where they had built their careers and had become famous.
Well, you need an AI agent to watch your back on this transformation.
I know. And I think that's just the hard reality in the AI era again. They're going to be folks who are going to be incredibly enthusiastic, self-starters. They're going to do shadow AI if they're not supported by their organizations. But for every one of them, there'll be at least 3 or 4 who will be like, oh, this thing just hallucinates all the time. It's taken the emotion out of advertising. Or, the automated tools are creating wrong segments, so they're choosing wrong keywords. And I think that's and what that means is you have the CMO who's stuck in the middle. He or she is hearing from that AI, visionary or leader, and is also hearing from another third of his organization saying, "Whoa, slow down! What are you doing out here? You're going to lose your job." And that's the hardest challenge. It's an organizational, internal culture change that's going to hurt the progress.
Hey, Shiv, here's a funny thing for you for CMOs. Do you think you'd be able to say what you think the what's a quality AI organization look like? And listen, that's a complicated question at some level. Maybe MMA's done most of that work with Dr. Omar Rodriguez, but I think maybe it's like, what would be the hallmark? What would you, if you were to say, here's a checklist of the things that you should be good at in AI as quick as you can? Do you have that list or a variation of that?
Greg, I've got to admit, there's a book that I can recommend which gets into some of that.
Oh, come on. We're trying to get it. We're trying to get it for free here. Shiv. Come on.
I know. So,
but
in all seriousness, in all seriousness, I do have a chapter in the book which talks about these are the 20 questions that you need to ask.
Oh, okay.
And this is a maturity model to go on. This is where you are probably today. This is the next 3 steps in it, and it's across these 20 questions. Beautiful. They serve as dimensions. And then also in one of my Substacks, I talk about how to unpack looking at your function and how to avoid AI czars, because, that was a trend that it looked like it was bubbling to the surface a year ago, where every company said, oh, let's have an AI czar. And within the marketing function, they were like, oh, we'll have our emerging tech person be the AI czar. And none of that works. You just can't force the change. So one has to think about it strategically and methodically, process-oriented, and thinking hard about the talent too.
Yeah. So we try to get a list. We got to go buy the book, everybody. So the listener got that one. Okay. Then, but let me ask you a different question. So we've talked a lot about the uncertainty, maybe a little bit of fear, and this sort of maybe change in efficiency that But what are you seeing in terms of what really is, where it's really working, like where it's really boosting the impact? Because through Rex here, MMA has been running a series of what we call Consortium for AI Personalization Studies. We're seeing on average across the Rex, how many? 18 studies we've done now?
About
18,
that many now,
10, 12 brands, 18 studies. We have seen on average plus 149%. So that's 2 to 3x gain in marketing productivity, just increased effectiveness, which basically means you're serving better as the people they're actually paying attention to, which, wow, what a novel concept that turned out to be. Really, come on, guys, we got to get there. But so what are you seeing for, that's using unsupervised machine learning with some machine learning techniques we can explain, people want to know, but what do you see out there where people are really creating value? You said Coke actually had productivity in this, it had better creative that performed well. You didn't say better, but you said performed well. What else are you seeing from people?
Yeah,
And
so
I'll pile on one more part. When you answer that, also answer who are the people who are becoming the new stars and rising with their success.
Ooh. Yeah, like that. Okay.
So I'd say that there are a few pieces to this. So firstly, without a doubt, the early wins are around productivity and efficiency. And those are some of the examples and why I talk about the television, the revolution will not be televised.
Yeah.
The second level of benefit is, which it sounds like you folks are finding, which I think is really just at the beginning too, which is much greater personalization, much more sophisticated targeting, really getting to that point of, 1 million segments of one each versus 5 segments of, 200,000 people. I'm seeing a lot of progress in that area, and I think there's a lot more to be done because we have to really link the segmentation to the insights, to the creative, to then the media plan as well, and not everyone does that smoothly, and it's a very manual process today. So that stitching will be the next major unlock. The third area, which when I talk about, I get in trouble for, but I think is coming very soon, and I haven't seen enough strong examples, is when it drives human ingenuity. We don't want to believe that AI can match our creativity and our imagination and our ability to think and create new products and services and ideas and campaigns and whatever it may be. The funny thing is, technically, AI cannot match us as human beings. The way our brains are wired, the way we have intuition, foresight, aesthetic, an understanding of culture, all of that, AI lacks. However, it can fake it. And with every passing day, it's getting better and better at faking it. So in the right hands, in the right expert hands, it is going to be used to drive novel products and services and creative outcomes that we never thought we could attribute to a piece of technology. So that's one area we haven't reached, but I strongly believe we're on the cusp of, and I see it in outside of marketing, in other functions, other industries, it already starting to happen.
Yeah, I'm super interested in that point. It came up a little bit in your Substack on your predictions when you were talking about AI invading our decision making and AI being a thought partner. I think that was point 1 and point 4 on your top 10 list. I think that to me, I've been playing around with trying to create a corpus of my all of my meetings. I'm recording them with Fireflies. I'm putting them into a data set by theme, and part of it's like, okay, if I have 20 hours of meetings I've had on this topic and issue, to be able to ask, what are my blind spots? What am I missing? It's a really interesting, way of beginning to. I don't think that there are good software or systems out there that have these easy ways of organizing it. One of my sons, Caleb, is trying to do a startup to try to figure out how can you organize the data. Greg's asked me a few times, said, "Hey, take MMA data, take all my reports, let's see what we can do." So I think maybe someone's going to crack it in the next year or so. But that is such an interesting idea, which is to collaborate with the ideas. There's a group here of old advertising researchers, Chuck Young and others, I think started the group. Bill Harvey and Horst Stipp, a bunch of other folks are on that list. And they're just trying to think about what is consciousness and the mind, what's AI. And it's interesting because Chuck created he calls it Hobbes from Calvin and Hobbes, an AI persona, and we're all feeding it different PDFs and white papers of different theories and trying to engage and seeing if it can help us get better thinking. Now the problem with AI is that human feedback is that it is very much it's a suck up, sycophant, bias echo chamber where it will tell you what you want to hear. And so we're trying to figure out how do you create that offset? And the DeepSeek's a really interesting point because maybe it won't be so susceptible to telling you subtly what it thinks you want to hear. It's sort of like when your wife asks, does this make me look fat? The right answer is very subtly.
It's thin. Always been thin.
Yeah,
it does not make you look fat.
Yeah. You aren't fat, I think is the initial answer. But it's, the subtlety of how the AI is much better than any of us are at answering that question, right?
Yeah.
Mary, we might have to cut that part out later on to save me and my marriage.
Where's the producer?
Yes. Yeah.
We'll come back to our producer.
I agree.
No, but seriously, how do you think about this part about, because I think you're so right. There's something powerful about the creative ideation process and making us better and pushing us further, but there's also these things where it begins to subtly feedback what we want to hear and doesn't actually make us better.
Yeah, so I think there are two parts to that. So one challenge I believe we all have with AI today is it's just too damn easy to use. And because of that, we don't invest the time, the effort, the skill needed to really make it a strong thought partner. And Rex, to your point, part of that is you want to feed it good information. So, a fun minor side project I did was, I have an AI note taker for all my Zoom calls. And so all my Zoom calls over the last 12 months are recorded in script form. I've uploaded that to an AI tool and said, now tell me, what are the major themes that I talk about, when I'm on Zoom? How articulate am I? Am I talking the right amount? Am I using the right words? Am I covering the right topics? If you were in my shoes, how would you approach these conversations? And then I also say, act like you're my mom, who's a former English professor and now the publisher of a magazine, who's, who can be pretty damn critical at the same time, and then give me your perspective. So it's a combination of, you want to have a corpus of your own data, along with, the right prompts, the right personas you're feeding into that specific AI tool. And then you want to give it time. You want to allow for the chain of thought reasoning. You want to allow for it being a long conversation, just like when you go out with a friend for a drink, or if you're in school, with your advisor having a conversation. And that's when you start to see the more and more interesting outcomes. But it's so easy to type in a question, expect the answer to be perfect, get a bad answer, and then throw your hands up and say, oh, AI can never compete with me. It's hallucinating. It's doing all kinds of stupid things.
I love your idea of beginning to use it as a partner and collecting your own corpus. Right. And I know we're all doing that kind of things, and hopefully the listeners will take that away as a good task, as a way to begin to build up this. Because I think that's going to be a competitive advantage, that ability to have that AI mirror to look at yourself in and give you tips and coaching and support and so forth.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's great. Shiv, well, listen, I can't. I think we're out of time, Rex. You got time for So
yeah, I think
Shiv,
this is a great show. Thank you
for doing this. Listen, you're doing better than us. I looked it up. Rex is on my book. The book he and I wrote are now. You can get it for $1.29. Rex, I saw on Amazon in the used book bin. So just
the 30-year edition.
The 30-year edition, exactly. Maybe we should gold it or something like that and put it back out. But no, listen, congratulations, Shiv. It's a big job to write a book. So, I'm certainly in admiration you're doing that, and I love the way you went at this thing and really pulled it together, because I think it was really super necessary. So I have a feeling we're going to need you to come back here and do a little bit more at some point. So appreciate it.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for your generosity and sharing your ideas on Substack, writing the book, coming on the podcast. And I know that's it for this episode of Decoding AI for Marketing. I'm Rex Briggs.
And I'm Greg Stewart.
Be sure to catch all our episodes, plus subscribe, follow, rate, and review in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. That's how the AI learns. And check us out on YouTube. You can get transcripts and more information on our website, decodingaiformarketing.com, and learn more about MMA membership and other options. You can go to MMAglobal.com. And thanks for listening.